I Don't Know Yet is not affiliated with any specific 12-step fellowship. The content put forth are the thoughts, opinions, and experiences of the host and guests. It is meant to be suggestive only and is in no way a reflection on how to work the steps in any fellowship or how to work any other recovery program. Okay, we're back. Hey, Chrystal.
Hey, Jen.
Oh, gotta get comfortable here.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
I'm so excited to have you here. It's been really cool because the last few episodes that I've been doing have really been reaching out more and more to people that I don't know super well. So being somebody that I just absolutely adore in the rooms and somebody that, you're one of the few core people when I take on a sponsee and I tell them they need to build a network, you're one of the 5 phone numbers that I don't even ask you anymore. Like I literally just, if you have a problem, you call one of these women, they're going to help you. And you've just been such an inspiration coming into the rooms in our group, and I'm just really glad to have you here. I freaking love you.
Oh, thanks, Jen. You're not supposed to make me cry before the episode starts. That means a lot. You're the first person that I met in one of my recovery communities. You were very welcoming, and I've always looked at you as somebody that I'm comfortable to talk to and to approach with about things. So I'm really excited to do this with you today.
Oh my God. So I'm really looking forward to this episode. It gives me, it's funny, I've been a little off all day and I didn't know why. And my boyfriend had asked me a couple of times, and like I went to a meditation meeting for the first time in a really long time last night. A lot of stuff that I wasn't like came up, not even anything specific, just a lot of emotion that I wasn't like. I cried twice during the meditation and my share was like, I don't know, it was strange, and I really thought that was kind of the reason that I was off. But what's really cool about doing this podcast and doing these experiences is I, an hour and a half ago, didn't want to come here. And I love this podcast and I love you and I love everything about it. And it's really cool that my higher power is literally giving me the answer to what was going on right now, is that this is a very trying to find balance in my life. And in my recovery is such, all the shows and topics are great, but this is something that I struggled with and still struggle with a lot. And this is like the topic of interest that I really want to help people with, but it's bringing some of it up is very painful to remember. And I think that's why I just felt off all day, because I just didn't feel like bringing up all of these tough feelings. But so here we go. So I guess, we're talking about balance in steps, balance in life, balance in recovery, balance in work life, home life, kind of everything. So let's kind of start by, because you were the one that brought up that you thought that was a really good topic. So let's just kind of dive in. Like, do you want to start with your lack thereof and how you grew into it? Or like, is there specific areas of your life? Like, let's just start chit-chatting and see where it goes.
Sure. I love that. Yeah, this is when you had asked me about topics, there's a couple things that I feel like for me in recovery have been really big. Balance. Balance is, it always comes up for me. It always comes up. So it was something that I feel like, especially just with my journey, and I know the whole point of your podcast is to reach out to other people in recovery and, and give some hope in some areas or advice in other areas, or just to tell your story so that other people don't feel like they're alone in certain things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with balance, like I know it was so hard for me. I'm just over 2.5 years, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. And I'm still like at a point where I'm like, I just started semi-regularly cleaning my house, or, there's so many things that, I want to pull into the mix and I want to do, and I wanted to do right off the get-go, but actually making the time management and learning how to juggle like recovery and the kid and the job and the family and the friends and then anything else that you might want to do, it's really hard. Yeah. It's really hard, and I feel like I had to come to a point where I was just like, it's okay, like prioritizing, right? Like at first it was like recovery was the most important thing. I knew that I wanted change. I didn't want to go back to the life that I was living. And I had to get this. It was like this urgency that I need to get this recovery. So, I went to a couple treatments, and when I got out, I was like, okay, now this is me. I have to figure this out. And I was just living in some of the different recovery rooms, right? And just immersing myself in like the steps and all of those kind of things. And I know I had a couple conversations with my son's father, who's super supportive, but he was like, your kid's important too, right? and
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to get back in touch and connected with my family, and there were all these things that I didn't know how to juggle recovery and my own son. And I remember talking to my son's father and saying, I love him. I can't wait to do things with him. But if I don't get this, if I relapse, I'm not going to be there for him anyway, or I am going to die,
Yeah.
because that was where I was heading, the end of my addiction. My kid was going to find me dead in my bathroom. So I knew that much as I wanted to be there for my son, and I wanted to jump back into that whole mother-son relationship, I needed to figure out the recovery side first. So it took some time, right? And when I kind of had a little bit of a handle on it, I was able to do more with my child, right? And develop that relationship a little bit better. And it was great. And then it got to a point where it was like, financially I should probably go back to work, but I didn't know how I was going to juggle recovery and my son and a job, right? And it's like all throughout the course of the last 2.5 years, I've been pulling something else in slowly. And
Mm-hmm.
when I pull that thing in, sometimes other things kind of fall to the wayside for a bit, or I don't know how to juggle. So it's just been really important for me, I guess, the learning experience, that it's okay,
Mm-hmm.
to just, be where you are right now, figure it out, right? Like, and just be at peace knowing that all of these good things are going to come, and you're going to get there, and you're going to figure out, but just take the time to just be gentle with yourself with the balance thing.
Balance. It's funny, like, I can't speak for all addicts. I can speak for myself, and definitely a lot of people that have already agreed on this, is that a lot of us are very all or nothing people, one end of the spectrum to the other. And so my issue with balance is, once I got one thing, everything went into that thing, right? And you were talking about having things fall to the wayside. Like, I totally understand that. What was interesting for me is when I got sober, like, I was in treatment when COVID hit.
Mhm.
So when I got out, the world was shut down. It's so funny, like, people are probably going to fry me for this, but like, for me, there was a lot of good things that came out of the pandemic.
Mhm.
Like, a lot of good things. It was unlimited time
Mhm.
for a while. It was really cool. It was a really cool experience, but I had the ability to go to as many meetings as I wanted to, as I needed to, as I, desired to. I was like, I think my first 3 months out of treatment, I was going to like 4 meetings a day,
Mhm.
right? It was the only thing I had to worry about. My parents were gung ho because I was back from treatment and I was trying to get a better life. They were like, can go, right? I was already staying with them anyways. So it was very easy to make that the only thing.
Yeah.
And then with the court mandated program I was in, when I hit about 6 months, they're like, time to get a job. And I was like, but COVID. They're like, lots of places are open, go get a job. And I remember getting a job, and I was so exhausted, right? Because at that time I was going to a meeting still every day.
Mhm.
I was trying to have time with my family. I was trying to find time to build relationships with pillars outside of work from the fellowship, because everything that was not work at this time was all recovery, right? I was meeting
Mhm.
with my sponsor, doing my steps, and I was busy all the time. Ever since I got sober, I've struggled with sleep. And I
Mhm.
do remember my old service sponsor once said, he's like, it took me 5 years of being sober before I feel like I actually had a good night's sleep. And he told me that at 2 years. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you telling me I'm 3 years away still? And here I am, 4.5. It's better.
Mhm.
I've learned to manage it more, but I don't have the luxury of waking up, sleeping for 8 hours a night and feeling rested. It's not great.
Mhm.
But when I went super gung ho on all this recovery stuff, and then I got a job, I was exhausted. I didn't understand the concept of pouring out of an empty cup,
Mhm.
and I had been doing it for a while. And I spent like my time in my first year was literally work, recovery, sleep. That's all I did. And I'm grateful that that's all I did because it got me what you were talking, right? That foundation. But it was too much to manage. I had no balance. I had no balance. And so I ended up doing this really amazing exercise in the court mandated program, and I wanted to share it with you. It's called 168 hours. And I share this information with anybody who has time management issues or anybody that's struggling with that stuff. There's only 168 hours in a day. Sorry, week.
Okay, because I was going to say, I wish.
I was just testing you. You waste it. 168 hours in a week.
Yeah.
No more, no less. So if you need more time, you need to figure out where your time is going. Right? So the premise is to actually pay attention and sit. How much time do I spend in the bathroom? How much time do I spend showering? How much time do I spend driving to work, eating food, preparing food? Where is my time going? How much time do I spend watching TV? And you review all this stuff, and then you take a look and say, if I can't get more time, then how do I take more advantage of the time that I have? Yeah. And learning. And it was interesting. I always knew that I watched a lot of TV, but this exercise really showed me that I am a Netflix binge watcher.
Me too.
Sometimes I can binge an entire series in a couple of. It was bad.
I still, but I feel like it's because I'm so go, like between the kid and the job and recovery and all the things. When I actually have a couple days at home, I like to spend a whole day on my couch, ordering takeout. Let's pick not a TV show, a TV series, and we'll just watch it back to back to back to back until I fall asleep on my couch tonight.
And you know what's funny?
It's my favorite days.
I've been so busy for the last few weeks. I have not had a do not leave my couch veg day in a while, and I'm due for one soon.
Yeah,
absolutely. But yeah, it was interesting, right? Doing this exercise, and I figured out kind of where my time was going. And then like, once you have awareness and you have willingness, ask your higher power for a little bit of help, things got really good. Yeah. And then I went and added the next fucking thing into my life, and then it all came crashing down again, right? And it's just, I'm famous for like, give, feel really good, feel really good, feel really good, feel really good. And then somewhere along the way, my cup's been empty for a really long time, and I don't recognize it until it's too late. When it's too late, I'm already depressed. I'm already exhausted. I'm already in a really bad place, and it takes me quite a bit to pull myself out of that. Have you ever had an experience like that?
Absolutely. Same thing. I'm go, and then I get to a point, and I think this is where some of those TV days come in, because sometimes it's planned, and I just want to relax in my house, right? Like everything's done, everything's taken care of. And those are always nice days, right? Where I'm not watching TV to escape. I'm watching to relax, right? But when I go, like, you know, I'm working 2 jobs now, and then with the kid, and he plays a lot of hockey, and, you know, I got the dog and the house and the family and just all the things and recovery. And it's like I get a little burnt out, and then I'll have a day where I'm planning to do my laundry, get my house in order. And I'm just so that I sit on the couch and I tune out, I zone out. So, you know, I think for me, I recognize the difference between me relaxing to enjoy the time that I have to relax, and me
like a forced recharge,
a forced just escape. It's like where the drugs and the alcohol used to get me out of my head in those ways. It's like the TV, I zone out on that, and I'm not thinking about all of the things that I should be doing or need to do, or just how burnt out I am in that moment. So I think that, again, the balance of that, right? And recognizing, okay, so I'm going at like 120 miles an hour and I haven't stopped for gas, and I'm going to run out on the side of the road here and be stuck on my couch for 24 hours. Yeah. Not wanting to do anything because I'm so exhausted. At what point do I need to stop and take a top up? And what does that top up mean? Like, do I need to reach out to a pillar? Do I need to spend some more time in prayer meditation? Do I need to go to one of my fellowships that I go to? Or do I just need to go to my parents' house and spend a day with my mom and dad? Or, you know, like I'm still, sometimes I recognize that, but I'm human, I'm finite, you know, I miss these things, and I grow through pain. It's the only way that I grow. Sometimes I feel like it's a little frustrating. You know, sometimes I wish that I could just recognize from other people's experiences or this or that.
Oh, I should probably never do that. Noted. Yeah, we
Exactly,
don't do
right?
that.
I definitely don't,
Yeah.
and sometimes I have to do the same thing a few times until I get to a point where I'm just so fed up with, now I've spent my last 2 days doing nothing and my house is still a mess and I have no clean clothes because I couldn't just take the time to recharge before I got to that point.
Right.
So it's gotten a little bit better. I'm doing a lot of work on that, which is another reason why I wanted to pick this topic
Mm.
because this has been it's been a big, huge area of my life too. But it's still like, like I don't think there was a time I think when I hit about a year where my big slogan I was telling everybody is balance just doesn't exist. And that's okay. I'm never gonna be fully balanced. It's like Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy, it's a great idea, but there's no such thing as balance, right? And I was okay with that until I pulled a couple more things in and didn't know how I was going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that honestly, and I was listening to this thing today and it just really hit me. And I think that it spoke to me in the sense that it's important to just be in this moment where you are, not be focusing on all the things you need to do or everything that's happened the day before or the night before. Just like, where am I right now? Recognize where you are. What do I need right now? And just go from there, right? And let
Mm-hmm.
God take care of the rest, you know?
Such a beautiful thing to experience, but once you had such a lack of like it's hard to get back. Like or at least that bit had words, sentences. At least that was my experience. But like what I think is fascinating is when we pick these topics, like people that could be watching, whether in addiction, not an addiction, family, friend, whatever, like one of the most beautiful things about the program that is the 12 steps is that we come to these rooms and these places thinking that the problem is that we can't stop using drugs and alcohol, and then we finally get to a point where we understand that drugs and alcohol were never the problem. Yeah. The problem is our brain doesn't function properly, doesn't think properly, and causes us to make poor decisions constantly. Really poor. And so what I love about topics like this, we could talk about the things. It's like, hey, like I keep adding all these things and now I'm out of balance. For me, that idea is more of the branch. Mm-hmm. What's the root of where that's coming from? And so I've tripped and fallen enough that I've been able to pinpoint the root of why I think so many addicts, at least myself, struggle with balance because they all come out of my defects. My defects set these things in motion that cause me to burn out. Yeah. Right? My inability to say no to people. I mean, okay, granted, 4.5 years, I've been working a lot. I'm not perfect, never going to be perfect, but I'm a hell of a lot further ahead than I was because I work my ass off. But like when I talk about these things, I think about the experiences before I got like really good at them. Like my inability to say no to people. I need you to like me. I need you to accept me. I need you to tell me I'm doing a good job. I absolutely cannot disappoint you. I cannot fail you. I just want you to love me and accept me. And so the people pleasing. Yeah. The people pleasing for me was a big catalyst in my first burnout in recovery because we get here, we're hopeless, we're broken. Most of us are suicidal. And we have this gift of desperation. We've been beaten to a point of reasonableness. We're willing to do fucking anything. You were mentioning that earlier, right? Yeah. I'm willing to do anything. Yeah. And then we do that. And that's our sole focus. And that's what it needs to be at that time. And then we get this relief. And then I remember when I got it. I remember my sponsor, when I asked her to sponsor me, looked me in the face, our first appointment, said, I only sponsor other women who sponsor other women. Is that going to be you? And I lied through my teeth. I'm like, of course. Fuck that. You can I can't even take care of myself. But then I got there and I had this beautiful experience and I was like, oh my God, like just 8 months ago, I wanted to die and now I want to live. Right. And now I don't think about you. Like I want to share this with people. I started sponsoring right away and it was great. But those defects that I had like, yes, I had done the steps, but it takes a lot of work, a lot of years, a lot of time, a lot of onion peels. Like it takes a lot of time to get to the root of where a lot of these things come from. Absolutely. And the people pleasing, the burnouts that caused me, it's such a paradox because I feel like sponsorship is the only thing that got me through
Mhm.
year 1 to 2.
Mhm.
But sponsorship caused a lot of my burnout, which made me feel like I wasn't gonna make it to year 2, which
Yeah.
it's so weird. But like I would take on anybody.
Yep. Yep.
Anybody that wanted it because I'm like, I mean, yeah, it felt good. Someone wanted me to sponsor them, but more
Mhm.
importantly, I'm like, God wouldn't bring me this person if it wasn't my job to sponsor them.
Yeah.
And I was taking on all of these things, and I very quickly realized that when you take on too many people, yeah, it's great. Like your steps get better when you sponsor. I 100% recommend don't ever do this program and not do step 12.
Mhm. Absolutely.
But my steps were suffering because I wasn't spending any of the time doing any of the things the book suggests. I was just reading it with people and then going to the next person and reading it with the next person. And like I wasn't
Yeah.
doing any of the stuff. And I like one of the biggest things that I found was that people pleasing and my inability to say no
Mhm.
caused a lot of my burnout.
Yeah.
A lot of it.
I agree.
Do you relate to that?
So, and again, like I feel like in early recovery, you get these suggestions, right? And I had these pillars, these 12-stepped God-centered pillars. And, they were saying what you need to do, right? Or what you should be doing and sponsoring and all this stuff. So I didn't know what my limit was. I mean, and how do you know what your limit's going to be until you reach it, right? So I feel like in early recovery, I did the same thing. And I think in early recovery, I was still run by a lot of defects too. Like there was the wanting to help, but it was also the ego. Like this person wants me to sponsor them, right? Like,
Totally.
wow, that's cool. I'm pretty special, right?
Right.
So I
Look at
mean,
me go.
look at me
Everyone
go.
wants me.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? So there was, and I have to admit, there was some of that in there. It was that
Sure.
whole, like, I coming into recovery, I was very ego driven. That's one of my top defects. And it doesn't just go away, right? And I think even with my people pleasing, because I still do it sometimes, a lot of it is the ego. I want someone to like me, or I'm feeling honored that you've asked me, but I should be able to say, well, thank you. I'm very honored that you would ask me to do that. But unfortunately, I should be able to be honest with where I'm at with somebody, right? And that took a lot of time. That was really hard.
Mm-hmm.
But like I would see my pillars and they'd be sponsoring so many people and they still had a job and some of them had kids. And I'm like, well, they can do it. I can do it. Right. So I would be same thing, just saying yes to anybody. Right. And then at the end of the day, I was feeling super burnt out. I didn't know how I was gonna, again, I was having a hard time juggling the kid again and the recovery because now I have to meet with sponsees and this and pulling that other thing in and like you said before, just going overboard with it, right? Like putting everything into this one thing. And I found that I was getting to like about step 3. And as soon as it got to the work part, these girls were disappearing. And the treatment center I went to, they have an alumni list. So new girls in the treatment center can reach out to an alumni to find a sponsor. So I'm on that list, and girls were calling me and they need someone to come in and do a 5, 6, 7 with them. So I would just say okay, and again, I'm doing this book studies and learning about these steps, and like some of it was also ego, right? Because you hear people saying a good 5 takes like 13, 15 hours. So I'm going in there and I'm really trying to dig into this stuff, and a lot of it I'm just learning myself, like and just trying to stretch this out to, because I'm like, the longer it is, the better recovery they're gonna have, right? And I went in and I did this really thorough 5, and I was doing this book study and I addressed all the points, and I feel like it really, a lot of that, there was a lot of God in that. And I called a couple days later just to say, hey, and she had relapsed and gotten kicked out of the treatment center. So I was like, okay, so I've literally gone in, I had to rebook 3 different appointments to go in and see this girl because they only have a certain allotment of time. I'm like, I'm putting all of this time in, and why is nobody staying recovered, right? Like, is it me? And I was just starting to internalize a lot of it and feel like I was a failure, or and it got to a point where I just realized that I'm just doing too much, right? I shouldn't just be saying yes to everybody, and I need to go in here with a plan, right? I need to go in here with God and not with me. And and with the treatment girls, what I found best is, how do I go in and do this proper 5, which for me today, it doesn't necessarily have to take 13, 15 hours. The 5 can actually be a lot quicker than that, I think. But how do I go in and do this super long 5 if I haven't done 1, 2, 3, 4 with them? I don't know the foundation of like, do they understand step one? Do they believe that they're an addict or an alcoholic in the first place?
Are
Are
they
they,
willing to do any of this work? Yeah.
yeah, are you here because you're going to lose your kid or you're court ordered or like, what's the deal here? Right. So I, um, talked to some pillars and I put a lot of prayer into it. And what I started doing is, if I get a call from a treatment girl and I do have the time available and I can go in and do one of these, which I don't do as many anymore, I let them know right off the hop. First of all, 5, 6, 7 isn't a thing. 5, 6, and 7 are three very totally different steps. And to just do them all as in one shot as one thing in like the couple hours that you have allotted, like, there's promises that come at the end of these steps. And if you get through a 5, 6, 7 and those promises aren't apparent in your life, it's probably because you need to dig a little bit more into that step. And I let them know when you get out, I would recommend restarting these and really digging in, like, what is this step, how can I apply it into my life, right? But I will go in and I'll say, I'm going to give you the treatment 5, 6, 7 because you need to get it done. But just know that like these promises that come at the end, they come at the end when you really get into this step and apply it into your life.
Yeah.
So I had to learn balance with just saying yes and how much time I'm going to put into these things and all the things, right? Which, yeah.
It's interesting. Like, it never ceases to amaze me how similar we are. But not even just me and you, right? Just addicts in general. Like, I literally felt like you said 80% of that from my own lips, right? Like, I had a conversation with my sponsor in year 2 being like, I can't get anybody. Like, I start them on 4 and then they just fall off. Like, is it me? Is it your fault? Because I love passing the blame. Did you teach me wrong?
Yeah.
Right? What's happening here? And she had asked me, she's like, where do you find your sponsees? And I was like, the treatment center I went to. She's like, I'm not saying that's not a good thing to do. Yeah. I'm saying that if you're struggling, because like 4 is where someone's willingness or lack thereof is really going to show. Because 4 is where the action starts. She said, if you're struggling to get someone through 4 or on further than that, maybe stop looking at the people that could be there, not on their own desire. Start looking at the people in the rooms that are standing up saying they need a sponsor. Like, these are just things to consider. Yeah. One of the most, and she was right. But the coolest conversation that I ever had that came up when you were saying that, and I wanted to share it with you, our mutual friend from our home group, right? My sponsor now said it was like the smartest thing that ever. It was funny because like it was like a year or 2 ago, and I remember it came up, and he doesn't even remember saying it. We had a conversation about it, and I was like, and maybe it was during an episode, I'm not sure, but I told him, I'm like, that was like a life changing moment for me. I'm never gonna forget it. And he's like, what are we talking about? It was funny. So I had a situation where I did not deal with a sponsee well. I thought I was. That was people pleasing, and my inability to hold my boundaries, my inability to say no in a loving and tolerant way, letting people walk all over me because I just want you to get it. I just want you to love me, right? All these things. And they didn't handle a situation well over the course of months, and it blew up. And the first time that it ever happened to me, and I remember I called him long before he was my sponsor. He's been a pillar of mine for a long time. And I called him and I said, I just ruined this girl and I feel really bad. And the first thing that he said, I can hear the smirk coming through the phone when he said, it's interesting that you think you're that powerful. And I was like, I needed to hear that. Yeah. Right. But we talked, and like, I remember that we talked a lot, and ultimately we got to a point where he said something to me that was just so beautiful. And I love to share it with everybody I can. Because I'm like, I could have done, this shoulda, woulda, coulda, right? I should have done this differently. I could have done this differently. Maybe if I was more this, then I could have done this, and this. Yeah. And he said, but don't you see, you did exactly what God wanted you to do. And I'm like, that makes absolutely no sense. What are you talking about? And he said, God brought you and her together for you both to have that exact experience. And I was like, that sounds like a great way to take away my guilt, but like, I don't really understand it. And he's just like, here's the thing. He's like, Jen, the reason why you haven't been able to get a ton of people through the steps, he's like, God's not going to bring you a rock star when you have no skills.
Mm.
How do you get skills? You practice.
Yeah.
God's going to bring you a ton of fucking people that aren't ready to help you get good at sponsoring.
Mm. Goosebumps.
Me too. Oh, those are big ones. Can you see that?
I don't know, but I got them too.
Right? He's going to bring you exactly what you need to prepare you to get you to a point in your life where you can help a lot of fucking people. Right? So that when that rock star comes, you're fucking ready for them.
That's awesome.
Because my defects are always working against me. My brain is constantly trying to get me to feel like a failure. So I go back out and use.
Yep.
And every time I can't get a girl through the steps, I'm like, is it me? Did I do something wrong? Now, when I take someone on and it doesn't work out or they give up, it puts me in a position of gratitude today. Because I said, clearly I needed more work on this part.
Yeah.
So thanks for bringing me someone to practice on.
Yeah.
Let's go find somebody who's now ready to do it.
Right. Well, and obviously them too are clearly not ready just yet. It's not their time.
And maybe your experience dropped that seed for them.
Absolutely. Right. When they come back in, they're going to know what they need. You know, I remember my first treatment center that I went to in 2016, I was introduced to the steps. I wasn't ready. I didn't understand. And, you know, I wasn't really ready for change. I was there for all the wrong reasons. I just wanted to get off of the drug that brought me there and go back to drinking and doing a bit of whatever else on the weekend.
Backtrack a little bit. Get to when it was still fun.
Like be in my 20s again, you know?
Figure out how to do it responsibly.
Right? So, and I hear that a lot, right? But it's exactly where my head was. So
we all think we can do that in the beginning.
And there were a couple meetings I went to, and some people had an impact in the sense that this time it was like I knew. You know, I went to detox and I was so broken. And I remember going to the counselor and just like in tears saying, I have to go right into a treatment from here. Or I will drink, I will use. Like, I don't want to, but I will. This is just the reality of it. This is what I do. I need help, right? And I knew that I needed to be somewhere safe. I needed treatment. And when I got accepted to this one treatment center, it's like an 18-day program. It's
so short.
It's so short. And that was the first thing I remember feeling like this anxiety saying, that is not enough. I need a place where I can work on the steps. It was like I knew from the introduction in the beginning, you know, that, and I remember hearing people say, I tried everything. It was the last thing I tried and the first thing that worked for me. That was ringing through my head. And I'm like, okay, what do I have to lose? I need change. Like, I need to be somewhere where I can do these steps. It was like that seed had been planted for me. I wasn't ready in that moment. But years later coming in, I knew that I needed to try these steps. You know, it was like the desperation inside of me. It was like, you know, God was speaking inside of me saying, like, this is what you got to do. You need me in your life. And to get to me, you need to do this. Right.
Right.
So,
that's beautiful. I really like how you explain that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm right so there. Emotional. This is what like 3 days of just working and sleeping will do to a person. And then talking about these topics.
Oh my gosh.
It is a super important topic to me, right? Like, and I still like, I have, you know, it was like this for so long, and then it's
starting to,
but it still goes.
Can you not just wait?
You know, I have like this week, you know, it's like everything, everything's going on with work and events and recovery and just so much, right? And it's awesome. And it's a beautiful thing to even have all of these options of things to do in my life today, because in addiction, I was alone. I was isolating. I'd burnt my bridges. No one wanted to hang out with me. No one wanted to hire me. And if they did, the job didn't last long, you know? So like all of these beautiful things are happening. But it's still like, it's still hard to juggle all of them sometimes.
For sure.
Yeah.
And, you know, for me, this is something that I have put a lot of work into.
Yeah.
So it's not really difficult for me today.
Yeah.
It was the strangest thing 3 months ago. This has literally never happened to me in the entirety of my sobriety. I woke up fucking miserable. Like, I've had bad days. I've had off days. I've had stressful struggles. I woke up. It was, I can't even describe it. I woke up. I felt like shit. I started to cry. I just wanted to hide in my room. It was just the weirdest thing.
Huh.
And I was only up for about 15 minutes before my boyfriend texted me and said, hey, like, how's your day? And I was like, it's a bad day. It's going to be a bad day.
Oh.
And he was like, I'll be there in an hour.
Aw.
And he came and picked me up, and I just started to cry. And he's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know. It was the weirdest thing. We went to the grocery store, got some stuff, had like just like an in day together, and he pulled me out of my funk, and it was like this beautiful thing, which is great. I don't know where it came from, but I know that when he asked me, how are you? I had zero problem being like, it's a bad fucking day.
Yeah.
I had zero issues.
Yeah.
Where my struggles and where my burnouts and my lack of balance caused me even more problems, it was hard enough to get to a point where I was constantly saying yes to everything. But once I had burnt out, I refused to admit that I was.
Yep.
And I feel like the burnout was only a quarter of the battle.
Yep.
The rest of it was my inability to admit that I was struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And I pushed myself. And that's where the emotion of talking about the intro to this episode comes from.
Yeah.
Right? How far I fucking pushed myself being miserable because I just didn't want to admit that I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? Just like, and it's crazy to me now because I look back, coming up on 5 years and 6 months, like I look back and I'm like, how could I have been so foolish?
Yeah.
How could I not understand and not see that everybody in the fellowships, they fucking love you. They want to take care of you. No one ever, like, I've never had a person, I've never called someone and said I did something wrong. I made a mistake. I need help, and have them be like, well, I told you not to do that.
Yeah. Figure it out.
Right? It's never been that way. I remember
Yeah.
my very, very first burnout. So I finished the steps. I started sponsoring. Life on the outside appeared to be really good, and it was for a while. But then I started to struggle because my defects caused me to act in ways that caused a lack of balance.
Yeah.
So then this goes on for a really long time, and I'm struggling. I felt like I couldn't even tell my sponsor about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because my sponsor's job was to get me well.
Yeah.
Like, how fucking screwed up in my head. I'm like, I can't tell them that I'm struggling because I don't want them to feel like they didn't do a good job with me.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell them that I'm struggling because that means I'm failing.
Yep.
And I pushed and I pushed and I pushed it. And I remember I got to a breaking point. It's happened like 3 times, maybe, in like the 4.5 years. I really only remember the first time. Like the actual, like I remember where we were sitting in her car. Like I remember everything. And I'm like, can we talk? She's like, it's great to hear from you. Haven't heard from you in a few months. And I'm like, I know. Can we get together and maybe like read and do some stuff? She said, yeah. And I got in the car, and the fear, the overwhelming fear of admitting that I was struggling, it was so present and so bad. And I remember she said, so how are you? And I said, I'm good. Job's good. Not dating right now. You know, living with my parents, that's good. Like, things are good, blah, blah, blah. And I talked for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Complete surface level bullshit.
Yeah.
Complete surface level bullshit.
Yeah.
She sat there, let me say all of it. And then I stopped. And then she looked at me and she said, so how are you really?
Yeah.
And as soon as she said it, I knew that she knew.
Yeah.
Right? And looking back today, we know.
Yeah.
Just tell us you're struggling. It's
Yeah.
like, I look at my sponsees and I try to bang it into their brains. I'm like, you're going to struggle. You're going to go through this. If you're anything, like, God loves to bring me people that are just like me. Very different people with very different ambitions, but the defects, the root, the causes, it's all the same shit.
Yeah.
Right? God brings me my identical twins. So I'm like, if you're like, you're not going to want to call me.
Yeah.
Fucking call me.
Yeah.
Right? I went through so much pain, and if I wasn't in a program that said you're fucked if you relapse,
Yep.
I may not have made it.
Yep.
I may not have made it. So please, for the love of God, just reach out. Like, it's okay.
Absolutely.
And she just like, I told her everything, and she's like, how long has this been going on? And I'm like, months. And she's like, probably as long as it's been since you stopped calling.
Yep.
And I'm like, probably longer, but I probably had lack of awareness at that time. And so we sat down and really had to figure out how to rebalance everything.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, I learned how to do it. I get to this point, we grow through grow through pain. And then when I'm going through that pain, that desperation comes back.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to do fucking whatever it takes to get out of that.
Yeah.
Right. And then I do all this stuff, and I reap all the rewards. And it's like, it's like I'm a person who wants to have a beautiful body, And I go to the gym, and as soon as I get it, I stop going to the gym.
Yeah.
I get it, and then I rest.
Yeah.
And with us, to rest is to go back.
Absolutely.
Very, very quickly. And being 4.5 years now, it is like just like you said, like it started like this. Now it's doing this, and I really hope it gets to this. But it's just very hard to manage all of it at the same time to keep that balance. It's not easy.
No.
It's not easy. So if you're struggling with balance, you're not alone.
Yeah, reach out.
Call somebody.
Reach out. I feel you there exactly. All the things you just said, I can relate so much. And it's like, especially when you get into, like, we have a pretty good circle of people, right? So you get into that circle, and then you have people coming to you and asking you for help. It gets to a point where it's very hard, because like in my head, I'm thinking, I've got this much time, I've done all these things, it's almost like I revert back to that whole, I need to be strong, right? I need to give off this illusion that everything is okay, and that, so the new people coming in can see how happy and balanced and all the things that I am, so that, like, I can't just be broken for a minute. It's really hard to let yourself be vulnerable. And then when you get to a point where you haven't had to reach out for a while because things are going good, and then things aren't, it's like almost that fear of admitting that I don't know what happened. Like, things are great.
Is it my fault? What did I do wrong?
What did I do wrong? And then having to admit that I might have done something wrong, or it's so hard to do that, to reach out, but like super important. And like, again, that's part of, I think, how you get balance is you reach out, right? Like you're strong enough that you can be vulnerable, you can reach out, and then someone else will, like today, you talking about those things. I'm like, that's exactly how I felt, right? Like, I'm not alone, right? And like, it's so important for people out there to know that you are not alone. You're not alone here. Like, so many people, whether they have 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, early recovery, late recovery, super recovered, just getting to know the stuff, right? Like, everybody goes through that. Everybody needs help. Everybody at some point is going to feel off, or just have a day where they wake up and they feel miserable or sad, or, this is going to happen, right? And it's okay to reach out for help. People want you to reach out for help.
Want you to.
Because when I reach out to someone, I'm also helping that person, right? They get to work their 12th step, and it just keeps going on, right? And I reached out to you the other day for a step 10, and and I'm so glad I did, because in the process, I'm like, I haven't really had to do too many of these lately. And it's like, in my head, I've built that up, and now I do the step 10s when I really need to talk to someone about something, and I'm thinking all these little things I can just, I see the defect here, right? Like, I got angry, well, it's because I was scared that I was going to be late, or and yes, I definitely owe an amend, and okay, God, please take this anger from me, help me to be better, whatever, right? I kind of go through the my own bullshit process of it, right? Because it's me doing this, and forgetting what got me to this point of recovery in the first place. It was reaching out for all those little things. It was like recognizing when I was in a defect that, okay, I see fear here because I might be late, but what somebody else might see, and what you pointed out to me in that particular situation, was something that I wasn't even thinking about.
Well, and that's just it, right? What you see is normally the branch.
Yeah.
You need an outside person who knows what to look for, that can generally see the root.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it made me feel good about the fact too that, okay, it's not, you never get to a point where you're too far along to reach out for the little things. You don't, it's not like you graduate the next level and now you can't go back to here and ask for help in these areas, right? That's not how recovery works. I don't think it's
once
a continual.
Once you accept that your brain is fucked and will always be fucked, like, that's what addiction is.
Yeah.
Your brain doesn't think and function correctly.
Yeah.
That's why you need God.
Yeah.
To fill that hole in how we think.
Absolutely.
Once you admit and once you accept that you're never going to make good decisions on your own, it becomes a lot easier to reach out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I used to hate doing 10s because I felt like I wasn't doing a good job.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, I don't even want to try to self this. I'm just going to call somebody.
Yeah.
But I really love that you brought that up, right? Because when we're talking about balance as well, each time that I can't remember the exact instances because there's been so many monumental moments of over 4.5 years.
Yeah.
But I remember of the first 2 or 3 times that I fell, And then I opened up about it and said, like, I'm struggling. The response was, well, it sounds like maybe you've been coasting, resting on your laurels, right? Super normal. You're probably blocked. Let's do another 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And it helped for a little while.
Yeah.
But then it happened again, right? And then, oh, you're blocked again. You haven't been working your step work. So let's just focus on these 2. Here, do another 4 or 5. And so where things really catapulted and really shifted for me, Alex has been on the show twice now. What
the 9.
Oh, yeah. Alex has been on the show twice now. He did sponsor me for a while as well. He's the 9 guy. He's the amends guy. He's the guy with almost 2 decades that knows and has so much experience with that stuff. And so I went to him and I said, hey, like, you seem happy. I'm trying to reach out to more and more people. I feel like I'm constantly struggling with the same things and I just don't understand, like. And so first thing he said was like, how are your amends coming? And I said, if I'm being perfectly honest, I haven't made one in a long time. And so he really helped me see that 6 through 9.
I loved that episode.
Yeah, right?
That helped me a lot too.
He really helped me see. One's great. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm an addict. Cool.
Yeah.
Right? Being an addict, I now understand is the best thing that ever happened to me because it got me to this beautiful way of life today.
Absolutely.
Right? 2, gosh, something that I thought I never could believe in is single-handedly the most important part of my day. 3, I get it. I need to get myself out of, like, I get it, right? I'm good at working certain steps. But the 6 through the 9, I didn't realize were lacking as much as they were. And I thought it was fascinating, and I want to share this because I wish that other people would take the example of don't just be like, oh, you're blocked. Do another 4 or 5. You clearly haven't been doing enough 10s.
Yeah.
Right? How do you avoid getting blocked, to avoid the lack of balance, to avoid the crash, to avoid having this happen again and again and again? Well, you build fucking character.
Clear the road.
Through learning how to clear the path, get a clearer connection to God. In doing 6 through 9 and trying to really focus and hammer out, I've done 90% of my amends now. And when I first started talking with Alex, I had done 15%. Like, I hammered through so many amends. That's how you build character. Yeah. That's how you become a better human being. And in doing that process, my ability to work against my defects with God. No, I wish I could help you. I want to say yes.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I'm booked.
Yep.
Hey, I really appreciate that you want to spend time together. Respectfully, I prefer to spend my time with people that I have more things in common with, right? No, I'm not going to hang out with somebody that I have no desire to be friendly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But how do we learn how to be loving and tolerant? How do we learn how to become this better human being? By doing the work.
Yeah. 100%.
Doing the work.
100%.
And focusing on amends, like, catapulted me to the next level. What a better way to figure out where you need to do work than asking the people that you hurt how you hurt them.
Yeah.
And,
you know, and
I
can
think that I know how much of a dick I am, but I need to hear, like, and like all the examples that we talked about in that episode of all, like, the things that I thought were really bad weren't even the issue.
Yeah.
Weren't even the issue. Go watch the episode.
It was my favorite episodes thus far. Like, I love this show. I love this podcast and a lot of the topics, but that episode did wonders for me in my recovery too. Like, I pulled out my list and I was like, I've gotten a little complacent with this. Like, I called him as well and I got back to work with that and the freedom. Right. The freedom. And I think it has made things just in this last, the months leading up to now, it has made it easier for me to say, I'm sorry, unfortunately I can't, or whatever, right? In situations that, I don't feel the same need to make people happy, right? Because I don't feel like I need to make people happy on the inside because I'm still making up for things, or I don't even know, or I need, I want people to like me because I'm so unlikable, or, or whatever. It's like, I'm at a point where I like myself, I feel better about myself and I like to keep this feeling. And I know that it's like, I get that intuitive thought that, okay, this isn't, yeah, you're a cool person. I like you, but like, you only have so many hours in your day, right? What's important, right? Like the relationships I want to cultivate today, start with, my son, my family, some of my, and even still like that balance part of my recovery is still coming. I don't
Mm-hmm.
get out much, right? Like when was, we don't get to hang out much. There are certain things like I was able to make it to a Canada Day event, which was so awesome because I feel like I've missed out on the last however many events that we've had, right? So, even the friendships that I'm cultivating, it's happening slowly over time, right? And I'm just getting to a point even with everything else where I'm trying to pull a little bit more of that in, right? Um, I get a groove going with some stuff, and then I have a bit of time, or God will put someone in my head, and I'm like, I just reach out, and I'm like, hey, at some point, let's do this, or let's plan something,
Mm-hmm.
but to just say yes to everybody and go out and do things like that's not sustainable.
No.
It's just not, and I know that now.
Yeah.
And I know where I want to put my time, right? And if it's not helping somebody, or taking a sponsee through the book or something, I really want to spend the time that I have with the people that I love,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it's still coming. It's still coming,
Totally.
you know?
I shared this on a different episode as well, but I just think that it's so applicable to balance that I should share it again.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very heavily involved in one specific fellowship,
Mm-hmm.
and then I really kind of found my home elsewhere.
Yeah.
But I started to really learn about the history of the traditions, trying to get involved in like understanding the service manuals and all that stuff. And so I had this service sponsor, and I can't even remember what we were talking about. And he brought it up to me, and he was just like, "How many meetings do you go to in a week?" And I'm like, "I don't know, 5 to 8." And he was like, "Why?" and, and that was at a time where if you weren't praising me, then you were a reason I needed to be defensive.
Okay.
I'm like, "What the fuck do you mean?"
Yeah.
Because I've been working my ass off. I've been doing this the entire time, and I'm fucking healthy. Look at me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why would you even it was crazy how defensive I was. And he was like, "Whoa, calm down."
Yeah.
Actually, though, like, I want you to think about it.
Yeah.
Why do you go to so many meetings? And I thought about it, and I really kind of repeated the same things. I'm like, I got out of treatment when COVID hit. Like, this is what got me here. And then he said, "You do know what meetings are for." What the fuck do you mean? But I'm like, he said it in such a way that I'm like, I'm not even going to try to answer that. What are meetings for? And he's like, well, it's written very clearly in Bill's story that we meet frequently so that newcomers may find the fellowship that they seek.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't strike me as hopeless and broken anymore.
Yeah.
You definitely were, but you don't seem to be that way today. And I said, I'm not, like, I'm doing really well. And he said, okay, so do you need to listen to 5 people share for 3 minutes on step 4?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, can you just tell me what you're getting at? Yeah. And he said, you constantly talk about balance, and you constantly talk about your burnouts, and you constantly talk about things, and you're trying to move forward. I'm trying to say that if you have no more time, where's your time going?
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, you go to 5 to 8 meetings a week. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm not willing to stop going to meetings. Like, everybody I know that has long-term recovery still goes to meetings. He's like, I'm not. Stop being defensive. Like, it was every time. It was crazy. The ego. The ego. And he's like, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, how many women could you help have a fucking miracle if you maybe went to 2 or 3 meetings a week? And I'm like, and I didn't even understand what he was saying. I'm like, how am I supposed to help people have a miracle when I'm going to less meetings? And he's like, because you'll be working with them one-on-one in your home, in your car, at a Tim Hortons, wherever. Yeah. And I was like, because I remember, like, I was stressed about how many people I had. I'm like, I watch all these people sponsoring like 8 people at once. I have 2, and I don't have enough time. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you have no time because all you're doing is sitting at meetings. Yeah. Meetings are for you to find someone to sponsor. Yep. You found people. Go fucking sponsor them. Right. And so that was a really cool experience. But I think the biggest thing that I found that I learned a long time ago, have you heard of the Big Rock theory?
Oh, from the Drop the Rock?
I haven't read Drop the Rock in quite a while. Okay. The Big Rock theory comes from like rocks in a jar. Have you?
Oh, I don't know.
It's
Maybe explain it.
I love I'm an analogy person.
I like analogies. Yeah.
So there's this professor in this class, and he puts all these big rocks into it. Actually, I think it's like some inspirational leader. I've seen like something from the 80s. I'll show you the video.
Okay.
But like the one that I saw first was like this professor puts all these rocks in this jar, asks the class, is the jar full?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. And then he grabs a bunch of pebbles and dumps the pebbles and shakes it around. And then they all go into the cracks. And he's like, okay, is it full now? And they're like, yeah. And then he just kind of smirks and pours a bunch of sand in and shakes it around, and it all kind of settles in. He's like, is it full now? And they said, okay, now it's full. In the one I saw, which I think is hilarious because we're in recovery, is he dumped a beer inside of it.
Okay.
And he said, no matter how busy you are, there's always room for a beer, which I found hilarious.
Oh, that is hilarious.
Right? But the purpose of that, and this is like what really propelled me into understanding the importance of the 168 hours and the importance of finding these things, was that I was filling my life with pebbles and sand.
Yeah. Okay.
The big rocks are the things that are really important to you, your family, your recovery, right? Your son, my boyfriend, like the things that you and God agree are the important connective things that you can't live without. Yeah. Right? Those are the big rocks. But when you fill your life with pebbles and sand, there's no room for the big rocks. So when I struggled with balance, time management in the beginning, I was instructed to get, I use a phone today, but I bought an actual journal, an agenda, a daily planner.
I had one of those in early recovery.
I bought a physical one that had room for everything. And I was told to start scheduling an entire week. And now I schedule almost 2 full weeks in advance. So when people come into my life that aren't familiar with someone who's so scheduled like I am today, and if you knew me 15 years ago, you would never think I'd actually be that way today. But it's just fascinating because like I have people, and I try to explain to sponsees, I try to explain to newer women, you got to give me notice. Like my next 3 weekends are already booked. You can't call me on Thursday and say, can we do a step 5 on Saturday? Yeah. No. Like it just doesn't work. But what I found worked for me was sitting on Sunday, totally clear schedule, absolutely nothing on it. What are my big rocks? Ooh. I have to go to a meeting. I need to have dinner with my family. I have a date planned. I have this, like, what are the important things? The important things go in. Yeah. Then the pebbles and sand go in, right? Things that you want to do, things you need to catch up on, whatever. And so I learned this beautiful way of living where it's like, let's make sure the important things are in there first. Nice. I did that. And then I blatantly fucking ignored them and canceled those things because of the people pleasing, right? So it got so bad. Bless my first sponsor's heart. God, she was beautiful. I called her here's another one of my crashes that just came back to me. And I'm like, I'm crashing. Like, I can't stop saying yes to people in my schedule. Oh my God, I don't know what to do. And she said, you are no longer allowed to say yes to anyone without consulting me first.
I love it.
Yeah. And I said, what? She's like, use me as your scapegoat. Until you have the ability to say no, I'm going to say no for you. Send me your schedule. And if anyone asks you to do anything, you have to say, I need to talk to my sponsor first.
I love it.
Are you willing to do that? Once I got over like I feel like a failure part. Yeah. I did it. Someone randomly calls me. Hey, I just got out of treatment. I really need a meeting. Can you drive me to a meeting? I'm not allowed to say yes to anything. I need to call my sponsor. I'll call you right back. Hey, so there's this girl and she like, I really, really think that she's into recovery. Anyway, she just got out of treatment and she really wants to know if I can drive her to a meeting tonight. And she's like, please hold. And she opens my schedule. She's like, no, you can't fucking drive her to a meeting. You have dinner with your parents tonight. And I'm like, but they will understand if I cancel because this person needs me more, right? And like, there's a lot of really good stuff that unfortunately we don't have time to talk about today, and like in the family afterward chapter in the book, right? But like, we got a little bit of time. Okay. And
so there's one more thing I wanted to touch on.
For sure. I'm totally almost done with this
Keeps part. Coming and I keep forgetting.
Okay, like, don't forget it. Okay. I already pretty much just forgot what I was just saying. What was I just saying?
So the dinner with your parents, and you're gonna cancel.
And so she's like, no, like, what are you doing? Like, and I'm like, but they'll understand. She's like, no, but your job now is to have a balance. And you said that your family time is important to you. You need to do it. Yeah. You're only feeling like this because your defects are acting up and you're trying to live in them and not. She's like, hang up the phone, pray, ask God for courage to tell her the truth. Yeah. It's as simple as that. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you're making it sound so easy, but it's not. She's like, it is.
Yeah.
When you ask for God's help,
Yeah.
it can be.
Yeah.
I prayed, I said, help me. And I called her back and I said, as much as I would love to drive you, I've made plans that I'm not willing to break. They're really important to me. But I've reached out to a few women who might be able to help you. They've agreed to let me give you their numbers. I have to go meet my family now. Reach out to these people. There is a way to be helpful without having to sacrifice the things that are important to you.
Yeah.
Right?
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And I feel like I've been there too with that, where I've canceled things or, and it's not big events. It's just like I was going to hang out with my kid and then, or whatever. Right. And in my head, it's, the way I justify it is, well, it's not like we have plans. We're just going to hang out. We can hang out later. I can take it tomorrow instead.
Another time.
But I think at the end of the day, it's like, these are the things that, my parents are getting older, right? Like, I knock on wood, I hope they're around for a really long time, but by sacrificing those moments, and yes, they will understand, and yes, they are so proud of me, and they make sure to let me know all the time that they are so happy to have their daughter back, right? But by not making the time to go and see them more, one day I'm not going to be able to.
Yeah.
Right. And in that moment, like, I think it's so important that the things that are important to you, that you really spend the time with those things, because the only person that is always going to be there, that is never going to leave you, is God.
Right.
Family, friends, people are going to come, people are going to go, people are going to pass. And at the end of the day, it's like, what fills me with love, what makes me happy, and like making sure to put aside that time for those people. 100%, right?
Yeah. I think that's really great, and I think that really brings a lot to what you kind of started the episode with, right? Finding that quietness, trying to find that peace, right?
Yeah.
Something I learned last year that I had to ask for God with help a lot was help me lean into joy. Help me forget the fear of what could happen and just let me enjoy this moment, right? Yeah. There was a lot of times while I was dating my now boyfriend, right, where didn't know where our paths were going to line up, but we had a great time together, and so it was very evident that I had to ask for help and just say, like, don't worry about what's going to happen, worry about today.
Yeah.
Make the most of today, right? I don't regret. I do regret some of it. I don't worry about how much I hurt my parents in the past.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I try to be present when I'm with them.
Yeah.
Right? And just really leaning into that helps make the most of those moments with the big rocks, the people that really matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yay.
What a great conversation.
It was good.
That was great.
I really liked it.
I really liked that too.
A lot. Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me, Jen.
You're going to have to come back.
I would love to.
That was awesome.
It is. Yeah. Super important, super good topic. Like, what I was going to touch on really quick, if we just have a minute.
Totally.
So in the beginning, it was like recovery. And then, the kid and the job and stuff. And it was just last year that I figured, okay, my mental, emotional recovery is in a good place. It's not where I want it to be, but it's much better. Now let's pull in something else and let's focus on the physical. So again, I know a lot of people, the guys want to go to the gym, the girls want to this or this, but like something that I found that I've thought is so beautiful is last year I started focusing on, because in early recovery, I was eating everything. And
I relate to that.
I put on a lot of weight. I think it's a very common thing. And this is for a lot of women, and especially, I know with a lot of my sponsees, it's been an issue. So it's something I wanted to address, it's people gain weight in early recovery, right? It just happens because now you're doing stuff, you're going out, and it's like, let's go for wings, let's go for breakfast, let's have lunch, let's do dinner, right? And it's like all centered around food for a bit. So last year I got to a point where I had gotten up to like 50 pounds over where I typically would sit, and I was really uncomfortable, and I was like, okay, now I think it's time to start pulling in the physical. And that me inside of me wanted to just lose all the weight really quick and whatever, but it's been such a beautiful journey for me. And I think it was so important that I got those other things first before focusing on the physical, because I have been able to just love and respect my body for where it's at and know that, okay, I'm starting to do these things. I don't want to just go on some binge diet because I want healthy lifestyle changes the same way in my physical as my emotional and my mental and my spiritual.
Right.
So it's been over a year now. I'm about 12 pounds from my goal weight.
Hell yeah, good for you.
I've lost 40 pounds in the last year, and I'm at a point where I'm like, I'm okay with it though, right? I continue to slowly go down, but like, I feel like getting those other things first, like the big
foundation.
rocks, right? In recovery, right? The foundation of recovery, and then the family or the children, right? And then, you can pull in a job because financial things, they're important, right? But like, that hierarchy of what is important, right? And I've been focusing on a little bit more of the physical in the last year. And I feel great today, right? And like I was saying at the beginning of the episode, in the last 6 months, I've started cleaning my house a little bit, right? So these things do come, it does come, right? Like if you just deal with the important things, get your spirit right, get your mind right, get your heart right, everything else falls into place. And I just wanted to address that because I know it's great. Hard. It's hard to juggle recovery and family and this, and then also want, to lose weight or to, change other things in your life. And I just wanted to say to anybody out there that is having those same struggles that just take it slow. Get the mind and the spirit and the heart right, and the body will fall in line.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
It reminded me of a page out of the book. From it stems all forms of spiritual disease, for we have been not only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. When the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically.
Yeah.
Right. And that was my experience too. I gained probably 45 pounds. I think I've lost 30 to 35 of them.
Great.
But I didn't even like do it on purpose. Like I really focused on all the stuff that I needed to do. And then with being in a good place, like I never used to exercise, and it's funny because like I sometimes like sit there and I still question and I still feel like a failure. And I'm like, but like I don't go to the gym. I don't go running. I don't do these things. Like how am I actually being healthy, or am I starving myself? What am I doing? Actually, I go for hikes quite often. I walk the dog. I play softball, right? I do all of these things. I try to be aware of what I'm eating, but I will never not go out for pizza with a friend. Right? Like I'll like, as much as I would love to lose the last 10, 15 pounds, I'll happily keep it to be where I am. But it was that was something that I can't remember who said that to me. Someone said that to me. They said, don't worry about anything, but getting this right now. Because this is the mental and the spiritual, and that's what you need to do. Yeah.
Exactly. And I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel that. And same thing. I feel like that got right. The spirit got right. And I started just wanting to be healthier. Like I'm not one for the exercise or physical activity. I actually had a girlfriend recently ask if I wanted to hang out. I said, what do you want to do? She's like, go on a hike. And my instant response was, yuck.
Fuck no.
Yuck. Just yuck. I've learned things about myself in recovery too. Like, I don't like sweating, I don't like that kind of stuff, but I do enjoy a nice walk by the river, right? Or like these kind of things, right? I think for me, it was also just like, instead of like going out for breakfast and then going out for lunch and then going out for chicken wings, like,
right.
and eating 20 chicken wings, like just.
Not only can you not find the physical, but it's hard to find the financial balance when you're spending all your money on fucking food. I relate to that too.
And the balance of eating right, because these things are good. I enjoy chicken wings. I don't want to eat 6 or 7. I want 20, right? Like, so like, I think like with what you just read, the spiritual stuff worked out, and then I started wanting to take care of myself better, so I do go out for chicken wings still, but I'm not every week, and I don't eat a disgusting amount of them, right?
20's nothing, by the way.
Well, I'm just saying that because my ego is still pretty big, and I don't want people to know that I eat like 50. No, I'm just kidding. But I probably could, right? I mean, I've eaten disgusting amounts of food before, because like like with the addiction, when I start, I can't stop. I like this. I want more of it.
Oh
Right.
yeah.
So, and today I have a voice in my head. I can stop and think. I can be like, okay, well, this is really good, but I'm not hungry anymore. Maybe I'll save it for later. Right. And because I ate this out, I'm going to be good tomorrow. I'm going to have a salad. I'm going to make a sandwich, you know? Balance.
Baby steps.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that if there's anything that people can take from this is understand that balance is attainable, but it's always fluid, right?
Yeah.
There's always other things, and it's okay not to get it.
Mm-hmm.
You will be patient, right? The biggest key factor is you just got to stay willing.
Yeah.
Right. 1% better every day.
Yeah.
Right. If you're struggling, don't do all the dishes. Do one.
Yeah.
Right.
Or don't do them. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to leave your dishes in the sink for a week.
Like, do what you gotta do.
In early recovery, I didn't want people coming to my house because I'm like, someone's gonna walk in and look at me and say, "Are you sure you haven't relapsed, Chrystal?" Like, and there's still moments where I look at, and I'm just like, I have to take a breath and be like, it's okay. At the end of the day, is this more important than how I'm feeling inside?
Or what a great opportunity to understand that if there's someone out there going through the same thing, ask for help.
Yeah. Yeah.
If the hardest thing I have to do today is go to a fellow's house in recovery and do their dishes to help them get to a better mental state, fucking call me.
I'll keep that in mind. I have a dishwasher, so I just should probably run it through once in a while.
Oh my God, you're so
it's the unloading. My dishwasher is always full of clean dishes. That's okay.
Thank you for coming on. This has been a great chat.
Thanks for having me, Jen. This has been nice.
I appreciate you very much.
I love you lots.
Aw. Yeah. What are we going to talk about next time? I don't know yet.
Thanks.
Peace.
Bye.